Rising temperatures have local officials closely watching the snow melt. City Council reviews an alcohol management initiative. And the search for a missing passenger jet continues.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Winter's not over yet, but with temperatures soaring to plus 8 degrees Celsius today, the snow has begun to melt, and that's making for some wet driving conditions.
City crews have started to clear snowbanks away from intersections. They're also monitoring water flow in ditches in an effort to keep streets and intersections as dry as possible. Ryan Bonazzo has more.
If you see water accumulation like this on Thunder Bay streets, a city road grader may not be far behind. The Roads Division has begun clearing problem snowbanks away from storm drains in an effort to divert the water. Acting Roads Manager Brian Krall isn't yet convinced we've seen the last of Old Man Winter, but preparations are being made with an eye toward the spring.
Getting equipment ready, steamers. We have graders out right now open up intersections where there's water accumulating. We monitor the flow of water in the ditches and also off the road into the catch basin and the storm sewer system. So basically that involves making sure the ice is removed from the top of catch basins, steaming with a steamer, hot air that goes into a frozen pipe or whatever like that to make sure the water's continuing.
But despite the city's best efforts, the wet conditions can still make things a bit tough for pedestrians. Many have opted to stay off main streets in an attempt to stay dry.
Yeah, I don't want to get soakered.
We almost got splashed by a few cars. There's a few close calls.
I don't see people really taking their time to drive around people when they have to walk on the road. They just go right down the road still the way they would normally do.
But these temperatures likely won't stick around, and we're expected to have a nice slow spring thaw. As much as we'd all love a warm spell, Krall says as far as the roads are concerned, a slow, steady temperature increase is much better than a quick melt.
We may see lanes of roads being underwater, which will cause traffic to divert away from the water and potentially causing unsafe conditions. All indications are that the current weather is going to hold for a bit yet. I'm not sure if the snow is really finished at this point in time.
Ryan Bonazzo, TBT News.
Thunder Bay City Council will get a look at a study on a local program tonight aimed at helping people with severe alcohol and homelessness problems. The University of Victoria has been evaluating Shelter House's managed alcohol program for 7 months, and the results are encouraging. The 15-bed program for people with severe alcohol dependence opened in March of 2012. Most of those taking part were previously living outside or in emergency shelters and have a high rate of contact with city police. The managed alcohol program has given the participants small amounts of wine and access to housing and healthcare services. The analysis being presented to Council indicates substantial reduction in rates of police incidents, hospital admissions, and detoxification admissions. Also tonight, Council will be asked to approve a $2.8 million contract for interior renovations at the Wayland Building. 2/3 of the work is being paid for by senior levels of government.
A concerned mother has started a petition and a Facebook group calling on City Council to make changes to daycares and not cuts. Brianna Atkinson is worried the city will shut down the 4 municipally run childcare centers. Just last week, Council decided to phase out the evening childcare program at Grace Remus, and some on Council feel the city shouldn't be in the daycare business at all. Atkinson, whose 2 children attend the Algoma Child Care Center, recently created the Facebook page For Our Children. The online petition to put pressure on Council was started today. She feels the city should try adding younger kids and infants to the system.
Since our schools have went full-time with the JK program, the daycares are, yes, going to be losing money, but they need to change the programs, introduce more younger kids, infants, 1-year-old, not 18 months. Maternity leave only lasts a year. So once you've been off for a year, the baby is 12 months old and most parents have to go back to work.
Atkinson feels she may be forced to work fewer hours if city-run daycares were to close. She plans to bring her petition to Council once she gathers enough names to show local politicians how important and needed the system is.
Well, it's been a hot topic of discussion this winter, both among area residents and at Queen's Park. Improved safety on northern highways. And MPP Michael Gravel says he's still working on bringing one safety feature to the Thunder Bay Expressway. Gravel has been trying to get advanced warning lights installed at every intersection along the route, like the one at Balsam Street. Gravel managed to get that one installed 15 years ago when he was still an opposition member. Now that he's in cabinet, he's been trying to add more, but the Ministry of Transportation disagrees that additional lights are needed. Gravel says while the MTO acknowledges the warning lights have reduced the number of serious accidents at Balsam, the ministry believes the existing measures at other intersections along the route are sufficient.
Ministry of Transportation makes the case that there are sensors set up in the road which alert, the lights react to the traffic, and they aren't needed. I continue to think they are. I continue to think they're really a good case, and I'm going to continue to make the case that they should be put in place.
Ultimately, Gravel would like to see all the traffic lights on the expressway removed, with construction of a 4-lane divided highway with interchanges and a medium in the middle. The MTO is currently studying the feasibility of that sort of upgrade.
The province has announced it's investing $2 million into the Willow Road project in Atikokan. The 600-meter stretch will be rehabilitated for sanitary mainline sewers, road and sidewalk repairs to improve drainage and increase safety. Mayor Dennis Brown calls it tremendous news, as that project can now proceed after years of waiting.
There's been another incident of an elderly driver crashing into a Thunder Bay financial institution. People in the Northern Credit Union on Arthur Street were given quite a scare just after 1 o'clock this afternoon when a car jumped the sidewalk and smashed into the wall. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the damage to the building is being called extensive. According to city police, an elderly man was behind the wheel of the vehicle at the time. No charges are expected to be laid. It's the 4th such incident in Thunder Bay in the past 6 years.
Treaty 3 police and Kenora OPP are now saying the death of a Washagamis First Nation man this weekend is not suspicious. Emergency officials were called to a residence on the reserve on Saturday after the body of 39-year-old Matthew Cherry was found. He was declared dead at the scene. Following a post-mortem today at Lake of the Woods Hospital, it was determined that, contrary to earlier reports, there was no cause for suspicion in regard to the death. Police still say, however, that they are continuing to investigate the incident. And residents in Dryden are marking a tragic anniversary today. It has been 25 years since the crash of Air Ontario Flight 1363. There were 69 people on board the plane when it crashed in the forest near Dryden Airport on March 10th of 1989. 24 people, including the 2 pilots, lost their lives in the disaster. 1 crew member and 44 other passengers managed to survive. Transport Canada investigators later concluded that ice on the wings caused the plane to go down. A memorial was created at the site of the crash about 15 years ago. Officials at the Dryden Airport were making sure the path to that monument was plowed and accessible today for anyone who wished to pay their respects to victims of the crash.
A patient advocacy group is launching a campaign to stop the Ontario government from taking certain services out of public hospitals and putting them in private clinics. The Ontario Health Coalition says the Liberals want to take such things as diagnostic services, physiotherapy, and some surgeries out of hospitals and have them provided by private clinics. Coalition spokeswoman Natalie Mera calls private clinics a direct challenge to universal Medicare and claims they often impose administrative fees and other charges that are illegal under the Canada Health Act. She calls it a giant step towards American-style private health care and says even the so-called not-profit clinics charge patients extra fees.
In 2013, approximately 610 women in Ontario were diagnosed with cervical cancer. 150 of them will die from the disease. The local Screen for Life coach is now offering cervical screening for women aged 30 and up in hopes of having more women tested. Today, the Screen for Life coach was set up outside of Northwood Mall. According to mobile coach lead Lauren Beach, starting to screen early can identify any changes that are going on. Early detection and continual routine screening, she believes, is imperative for women. The mobile unit is in service 300 days a year and provides service to about 6,500 people.
Providing women with the option of having screening services within their local community so they don't have to travel into Thunder Bay for that. A lot of the local hospitals or health units don't necessarily have the same screening services available to them just based on size and staff in their region. So the coach is kind of bridging that gap and making sure that we're getting women in for these important screenings.
Women are invited to make a cervical screening appointment. The test only takes 20 minutes and is performed by a trained nurse. Anyone interested can visit the Health Sciences Foundation website.
The owner of one of Thunder Bay's largest hair salons was recently diagnosed with tongue cancer. And after receiving support from thousands of people in the community, he's decided to raise $40,000 for the Exceptional Cancer Care campaign. Michael Muya is the owner of Michael's Hair Design. He's currently undergoing treatments, but decided to share the news on his Facebook page. Almost immediately, good wishes came flooding in. And now, with the support of his brother Tony, his family, and friends, his campaign titled 40 in 40 has been announced. His goal is to raise $40,000 over the span of 40 days, from March 17th to April 25th. It's a goal Muya believes will be surpassed, especially after he received 1,400 responses in one day after his Facebook post.
Used to asking people for donations or money, but even if half of those people donated $20 each, that's almost $10,000. I thought, well, if we got more people doing that, we can get a lot of money for the Northern Cancer Center. And that's when I talked to my brother as well. My sister-in-law was on board, so we got it going.
The 40-day fundraising campaign will wrap up on Friday, April 25th, with a party at the CLE Coliseum. Tickets are $5. The 40 in 40 Facebook page will officially launch next Monday.
The Nallaloo Ice Fishing Derby has been running for close to a quarter of a century, bringing families together on a winter weekend. Now this year the Derby almost didn't run, but thanks to the community stepping up, local anglers were able to come together and put their best fish forward. Mike Albanese reports.
The Nallaloo Ice Fishing Derby drew in such a large crowd from around the area that the fish stood no chance. The weather also cooperated, creating a perfect day to sit down by a hole and attempt to snag the biggest catch. Some people at the event weren't even aware that it almost didn't run.
3 weeks ago, we didn't know if we were going to have a derby this year or not, because we had some problems locally, but a bunch of very aggressive volunteers got together and they said we're going to have a derby, and consequently we're here today and finishing this thing off.
Luke Truelove is an avid fisherman who says that ever since they've been given the green light to fish on Arrow Lake, he's made the trip close to every day. Truelove says he hasn't ever caught anything over 5 pounds. However, he was gunning for the big one at the Derby.
I caught it on Arrow Lake today, probably between 12 and 1 o'clock. I was jigging all morning, got my lines in, it was windy, tucked myself in around my hole, and I just sat down for about 2 or 3 hours. All of a sudden I felt like I was hooked on bottom. 15-minute play, got it through the hole, lucky. You always lose them when they're that big, right at the edge of the hole.
How big is he talking? Just under 11 pounds, and although that weight put him into 3rd place for biggest lake trout, he says he would have been fishing today regardless of whether or not the Derby was held. Truelove adds that the Derby is a great community event that brings excitement to everyone that lives in the surrounding area.
Since I was about in grade 5 here, I grew up at Whitefish Lake. This Derby's been like a family thing since then. Generally speaking, everyone around here has some sort of fishing or hunting experience that they've done with their family. It's sort of something of a tradition for everyone around here, way of life.
Volunteers estimated that close to 140 fish were brought in weighed, and contestants were able to finish the day chomping down on some fresh fish. Mike Albanese, TBT News.
The 2014 campaign chair for the United Way has been announced. Michael Nitz is regional sales manager of small business for RBC Royal Bank, and he's been an avid supporter of the United Way since 2005. His campaign vice chair was also announced today. Confederation College President Jim Matter has taken on the role.
You don't have to wait until summertime to view some of the wild animals from this region. The Chippewa Park Wildlife Exhibit has opened its doors again this week for winter viewing. This is the first time the wildlife exhibit has been open during March break. Acting Parks Manager for the city, Werner Schwar, says when they opened for the Family Day weekend, it was a huge success, so they decided to give families an opportunity to do something to help fill up the time during the March break.
The idea is to give people the opportunity to go to Chippewa Park in the wintertime and see the wildlife exhibit in winter, because the animals are generally much more active in the winter because it's cooler, and it gives people a chance to see them out in the snow, which is a different perspective than in the summertime.
The park will be open all week long, daily until Sunday from 11 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Admission is free, but donations are welcome to help support the wildlife exhibit.
Well, many Thunder Bay families may be headed for warmer climates during the March break, but for those who are staying in town, the conditions are great for hitting the slopes. Phil Darlington went to Mount Baldy this morning. He files this report.
For ski instructor Caitlin Smith, it's supposed to be a very busy March break. She works at the Mount Baldy ski hill and has a full roster of 24 children. She thinks the course being sold out can be attributed to the perfect conditions.
These are great conditions. The snow's soft enough that the kids won't hurt themselves at all, and just enough to slow them down when they're skiing. It's wonderful. It's the best March break we've had in a long time.
It's great to have time to come out. It's finally beautiful weather now. We're going to spend the whole day, and it's great out here.
Owner and operator Craig Spees is thrilled that the lessons are filling up and that March break also means a break from the harsh winter.
We got close to 100 kids in lessons already, and it's good for us because it's been a long, hard winter. I mean, we've had a lot of snow, and but the weather hasn't really cooperated a lot. So it's with the March break now. I mean, a little bit of snow prior coming into it. It's been really good.
Spees says that in the past few years, March break really hasn't been too big of a deal for them, but that this year they're booked absolutely solid. And with the slightly warmer temperatures that we've been having recently, conditions, he says, are basically perfect.
Probably got about 2 meters here, like honestly. But the thing is, like, it depends on where, because we've had such high winds. So there's like some places there'll be like 3-4 meters of snow, and other places it's starting to skim off the top.
We've had some challenges with some cold weather, but it hasn't stopped too many skiers from coming out. The snow's been probably the best in 10 years.
The only risk with the higher temperatures is if it stays warm overnight, which, according to Spees, will make for slow snow. But in its current condition, the mountain does appeal to a wide range of skiing and boarding abilities. Phil Darlington, TBT News.